Hey, welcome to Strictly Speaking here on True Blue. It is good to have you aboard. Bob Frantz with you. We got a special guest today. Very few guests. I can think of a handful, particularly in the entertainment world, where you can identify them solely by one character. They may have done a world's worth of work in a lot of places, but if I say to you the name Hercules, you probably are going to think of Kevin Sorbo, and why not? Kevin Sorbo earned worldwide stardom playing fictional heroes like Hercules, following the success of Hercules, which, by the way, became the number one TV show in the world in the mid to late 1990s. Um, he also did Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda. He's done movies like What If, God's Not Dead, Soul Surfer, Left Behind, The Rise of the Antichrist as well. He and his wife, Sam, founded Sorbo Studios to continue making movies promoting love, hope, redemption, faith, and laughter. Their first production was highly acclaimed and a box office success called Let There Be Light. So let's welcome Kevin Sorbo to Strictly Speaking here on True Blue. Kevin, it is so good to talk to you and see you. How are you?
Good to see you. And it's so funny you mentioned Hercules because I come home to a bunch of mail after I've been gone for quite a bit these last 3 months. And one of the things I'm doing, I get a lot of mail coming in still from fans, and there's the
Oh,
old Hercules days right there. So
love it.
a lot of people still want that. But it's interesting. I get a lot of people now that stop me, Bob, in airports and saying they don't bring up Hercules or Andromeda, my second series. They talk about the movies you just mentioned, like God's Not Dead, Let There Be
Really?
Light, and Soul Surfer. So I love the fact that has have such a huge impact on people. Because I do movies that Hollywood doesn't do, as you know. I do movies that have
True.
hope and love and faith and freedom and laughter, and Hollywood does quite the opposite. And it's kind of hurting Disney. If you've noticed what's going on with Disney this last year.
I have. I'm sad to say because I don't. I should be ashamed of it, but I have taken a certain amount of Schadenfreude in watching them suffer because they
Yeah,
deserve every inch of their pay. I don't mean to be that way, but I can't help it. I'm being honest with you here,
yeah,
man.
I'm with
And
you.
you're right. Not only do you do movies the opposite of what Hollywood does, it's why you do the movies you do, right? I
Yeah.
mean, because you just can't find that anywhere else in the industry.
No, no. I mean, those are the kind of movies I want to do I mean, that's why I fell in love with the acting to begin with, is movies that Hollywood used to do. My mom watched all these old black and whites back in the day when I was a little kid growing up in the, late 60s and in the 70s. It was movies with, Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn and Jimmy Stewart and all these guys. I mean, that's the movies that I said, I love those. And they just don't do those. They just repeat the same action movie over and over again. And all these actors, they're only in about a third of the movie. The rest of the two-thirds of the movie is them it's a CGI of them. It's a totally
Right.
computer generated image of them. So, which is great. But I mean, I want to do movies that really touch people the way they used to touch me.
Now, having said that, I'm so glad you pulled out that poster and that was so cool. That was 30 years ago. So I think when you said
We
some
started
people,
filming 30 years ago, went for 7 years.
right.
I can't believe it's been done for 23 years now, where we wrapped. It's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
years
But
go
but it
by,
was it was
so slow.
93, 30 years ago is when it launched, right? And then
Yeah.
it lasted 7 years. And when you just said that there are a lot of people that you meet that know you from your most recent movies, it's probably generational, right? I mean, I'm a kid of the 80s and 90s, so I think of you that way.
Great.
Um, does it bother you at all that people think of you as Hercules first, those who are my age maybe, or in this generation, Gen
No,
Xers, if you will? Or is
not at
it
all.
cool that 30 years after you started a character, it is so revered and so loved that people say that's Hercules?
Yeah, I think no, it's an iconic role. I had a blast doing it, and for it to become the most watched show in the world by the end of season three, it was amazing. We were in 176 countries, and I know somebody put out a poll. Dwayne Johnson came out with one-off movie of Hercules, and somebody came out, "Who's your favorite Hercules?" And they had Steve Reeves in there, and they had Lou Ferrigno did it. They had Arnold Schwarzenegger. I took in a little over 80% of the vote, saying I was their favorite. So I'll take that as a compliment up against those guys.
You know, I had Dean Cain on this show a few weeks back, and we talked similar about this, about Superman and the impact that it had on his life, not just his acting career, but that one role identifies his life. As a matter of fact, he has it in his bio on his social media. So it says "Truth, Trust, Justice, in the American Way."
Yeah.
Superman's motto. So he literally made it a part of his life. He identifies as it. Did Hercules become a part of your life?
Oh yeah. No question it did. I mean, yeah, I had nothing to do with the writing. The writers were great. But I definitely had my 2 cents every script. I would read and say, I got a problem with this scene or that scene. Can I work this out and not total rewrite the script, but just kind of reword some scenes? We ad libbed on the show quite a bit as well. But that show gave me the career I have now. So to me, I'm not embarrassed. I love that show. I mean, they put a lot of moral values in, even though it's mythological. The writers, without any of my say, they put a lot of really good values, and it came in through the letters I get from people, through those decades, and it's just it was a blast. You mentioned Dean. Dean is a very good friend of mine. I got down to the last two guys for the role of Superman. It was between
He told me that at the end of our interview.
it was between Dean and myself, and I originally booked it. And then 24 hours later, Warner Brothers changed their mind and went with Dean. I was talking about the high and the low and lows of acting. But within 3 months, then I got Hercules. So we each went on the road we were supposed to. But initially it was pretty devastating to me. But life works out the way it's supposed to if you put a lot of hard work into it.
Well, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, you hear people talk about that, like with respect to tragedies. There are people who were supposed to have been on planes on 9/11 who
Yeah.
missed their cab, missed their flight, didn't, and of course it changed. If you had gotten Superman, you may have never met Sam. Your life might
Oh,
be
no
an
question.
entirely different thing,
No
right?
question. Because yeah, I mean, that's just sort of the way life works out. There were people who made those planes that got on an earlier flight.
Oh,
They
that's right.
They got to the airport early and they said, hey, can I jump on this one? Oh, yeah, there's only 80 people. I'll go for it, So it's weird. And I'll tell you, one of the guys that was supposed to be had it booked, but they already closed the door. You know how they're. The minute they close that door,
That's
you
it.
can't get on the plane. And that was, oh, shoot. He's the guy who created Family Guy,
Oh,
Seth MacFarlane.
yeah, Seth MacFarlane, right?
He
I
would
didn't know that.
come on, let me come on. I'm 2 minutes late, and talk about getting your life saved.
Huge fan of his, but I
It,
did not know that about his life.
it didn't change his view of God anymore. He's still an atheist, but
I was just about to ask you those situations. Is that you're outspoken about your faith. It's one of the reasons why you've been canceled by Hollywood. And we're going to talk about that.
yeah.
I'm probably not as outspoken about it as you are, but I'm a Christian. I'm a Catholic. I believe God gives us free will, but sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you wonder, did God physically involve himself and make this happen? Did God say that door's closed because you're not supposed to die now? This is what's going to happen. You got denied this role because I've got different plans for you. Is that God? Is that God literally just intervening? Because there's that balance between divine providence and free will, right?
Yeah, no question. I think there's something, people that I got atheist friends, I got agnostic friends, and they equate a gut feeling just to a gut feeling. And I said, well, 2 o'clock in the morning, you're walking back from a party and you're going to take a shortcut down the alleyway, and you stop and look and go, I better not go that way. Well, maybe that was an angel watching over you. You can look at it any way you want, but you get these gut feelings, and I think there's a reason for gut feelings. And I'm not like a Bible banging guy in any way. I'm a believer. I don't try. I harvest people. I guess we're called to harvest in the Bible, right? I think through my movies more than anything else. I mean, we get emails from people all the time. I mean, I've had Muslims send me say, I became a Christian because of your movies.
Wow.
And to me, that's amazing because movies are powerful. I mean, Walt Disney said 70 years ago, back in the early 50s, he said movies and television will influence our youth. Well, look what's going on with our youth today. And look at the movies, look at the television products that are out there. And, just like the internet, which is the Wild West, movies and television can have a very negative or very positive message on people. And unfortunately, Hollywood seems to want to do the former rather than the latter, so.
We do. Yeah, and they're impacting our youth in all of the wrong way. So when you decide that gut feeling may be the angel or it may be God working in whatever way it is, where does that come from? Did you have a moment where you had an epiphany and said God is in control, or have you always been a person of faith? Were you raised that way? How did you come to realize that gut feeling that says go that way instead of that way may save my life? That was God, not just a hunch.
Well, I was raised that way. I grew up in a very small town about 30 miles west of Minneapolis called Mound, Minnesota. We were on the western edge of Lake Minnetonka. My little hometown was home to Tonka Toys. So there's a little trivia for people. And I grew up in a Lutheran church, typical Scandinavian. I'm a second generation Norwegian here in America. And My parents were always very strong. My father just passed away 11 years ago. My mom is still going at it, 91, and very strong Christians. So I just grew up that way, and it's just, I mean, I never, sure, during the late teens, 20s, in my 20s, I was still doing some stuff I should have been doing. But overall, I never stopped praying. I never stopped believing. I was never a guy that questioned it. I mean, all I got to do for me, all I got to do is look at the stars and go, okay, somebody started this, and it wasn't me. I don't believe in this. It just happened. I don't think you can get something from nothing. But it's like I tell my buddies that are atheists. I go, we're sitting in a building. Who built it? They go, somebody did. Exactly. So it
There
wasn't
it is.
me. It happened somehow. How can I explain God? I really can't. But there had to be something that started all this. So for me, the faith has always been there. Never stopped believing. And you
It's
know,
one thing to be a person of faith, though, Kevin, and it's another thing to be what you just said, a harvester of people. Which of course I think back to Christ when he was putting together his disciples. Come with me, and I'll make you a fisher of men. That's kind of what you just said. That's
yeah.
that's that's a different thing than just being a faithful. I was raised as a Christian, and that's what I believe in.
Well, I think God put me down this road. I mean, an interesting happened to me in a season 5 on Hercules. Unbeknownst to me, I had an aneurysm in my left shoulder and it was way up next to my neck. And I've been having all kinds of problems that last 3 or 4 months of season 5 on Hercules with my arm, and there's just weird headaches, and I couldn't figure what was going on. And I was always getting bumps and bruises. I did like 90% of my own stunts because my ego said I could, and I loved it. I'm a jock. I was football, basketball, all through school and everything. And so for me, it was a blast just doing my own fight scenes, and I had stunt guys that were awesome. And it got to a point that was bugging me so much that I came back to the States, and my doctor found a lump way up here, and he didn't know what it was at first. He thought it might have been cancer. He thought I had Hodgkin's, but ended up being an aneurysm before we could do anything. It opened up completely. And I sent hundreds of clots down my arm, but I sent 4 clots in my brain. I suffered 4 strokes, and
What
I wrote, yeah. So I took me 4 months.
was what? This was
This was
96,
this
7.
was 97. The same day Princess Di died. Exact same day. I was rushed to the hospital that she died in that car accident over in Paris. And I was, it took me 4 months to learn how to walk and balance again. It took me 3 full years to recover. I mean, I could have been killed, could have been in a wheelchair rest of my life. I mean, who knows what could have happened. I did recover. I still have limitations that I'm aware of. Most people wouldn't know it. I still have balance issues, but most people would not be able to see it. I'm definitely aware of it. I still have a 10% loss of vision in both eyes. But it was a long road. And, I went through those stages, blaming God, blaming the world, very angry. My career was really taken off. My first big budget studio movie had just come out. I just shot a $30 million movie for Hollywood called the Conqueror, the prequel to Conan the Barbarian. So things were starting to pop for me, and I was kind of all taken away. I was able to finish the last 2 seasons of Hercules, but a much restricted schedule. I went from
I
14
I
hours.
was just gonna ask you if that happened in '97, how did you do Hercules 98,
Well,
99?
when I went back, we did a lot of thing called stunt casting, where they bring in more famous names and stuff like that to sort
Yeah.
of fill the gap. And I would do about 2 scenes each day, but pretty much only worked an hour or two each day. I couldn't do my fight scenes really anymore for a while. I would try to, but it was just impossible with my balance
Right.
issues. And they kept the show going, and it wasn't out of the goodness of their heart. We were the number one show in the world, so Universal was making a lot of money off that show. But for me, it was a blessing because it gave me light at the end of this long, dark tunnel that was in front of me, and it gave me hope, and it gave me a drive. And I was very obviously I was in really good shape. I was ripped up. I was. I think because of the age and the physical level I was at, it helped me get better than having it happen to me now, or being an 85-year-old and getting strokes. So I got better, better, and better, and then by the first year of Andromeda, I was feeling pretty good again, and we just started rocking and rolling, and things seemed normal again. But it was a long road. I wrote a book called True Strength: My Journey from Hercules to Mere Mortal, and How Nearly Dying Saved My Life. So people can go to sorbostudios.com and get an autographed copy of True Strength. My wife and I did a follow book called True Faith, and it opened the door to speaking for me. I never thought I'd be doing this, but I do about a dozen speaking events a year around the country. It's been pretty amazing.
It is phenomenal, and you look like you're still in amazing shape. So when you
I
recovered, you were
still
able
work
to.
out every day. As an old dude,
Yeah.
I'm still working out.
What do you make of going back to the Hollywood thing, because you were talking about how ripped you were? I think of that era, and of course in the '80s when Stallone and Schwarzenegger were out trying to outflex one another, and
Sure.
It's not that way anymore. Like today's action heroes are like John Wick, and Denzel in the Equalizer series and things like that. They're still fighting, but they're very different. They're not the big hulking muscular guys anymore. What do you think caused that shift away from the almost cartoonish bodies that some of you guys had, being shredded the way you were? These are the heroes. You got to get shirtless and oiled up to make sure that we're selling tickets at the theater. But it's different now. Why?
Well, they still do that. I mean, you look at all the Avenger movies and stuff like that. Those guys that, Thor, that Hemsworth guy, he gets pretty beefed up every time.
Yeah, he does, but I mean, you look at Iron Man, it's the suit.
I
You
never
look at
got steroids.
Spider-Man, it's
I never got like hurt, Schwarzenegger or Lou Ferrigno big. I mean, they wanted a guy that was more of an NFL quarterback or decathlon type guy, and that was me. I was 6'3", I'd be about 225 pounds. So I wasn't like these 280 pounds of just no neck and all that stuff. But I think it's that they want people to be, I think, more relatable in a way. I mean, I love what the first John Wick was phenomenal to me, and
I agree, I love it.
yeah, I've met him a couple of times. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. It's just a cool guy, and he's a gun enthusiast. I mean, that's him doing those stunts, and he does an amazing job with those things. And Denzel, I met only Denzel one time. I walked up, introduced myself. We're at a charity event. I didn't want to bother him, but I said, "Dude, I'm such a fan. Just want to say hi." And then he said, "No, sit down, Kevin." And he knew who I was. I thought that was pretty cool. And we talked for like a half an hour, just sitting there talking at his table. So that was pretty cool for me. I had a series from the Equalizer writer years ago called The Handyman, which is right in that vein. I mean, he wrote the Equalizer series that was back in the 80s, I think it was, Michael Sloan. And he
Okay.
brought The Handyman to me, and we could never get it off the ground, which is really frustrating to me. I mean, that show to me would have been a 7 or 8 year hit. And Jack Reacher's doing it now. It's that kind of thing where it's a guy, he's getting rid of the bad guys. He's taking care of stuff without worrying about the BS that we keep putting through to our legal system that ties the hands of our police officers, So I was hoping that series would take off, but it didn't. But I think people relate to those things and say, you know what, good for you. Go after these guys and get rid of these punks. You look at how violent our world is right now and filled with hate and anger. We're letting these Antifa punks walk down the street and attack anybody they want to attack store owners, break the window, steal stuff. I'm going, where are the governors and mayors of these states? Why are they letting this happen? It's the weirdest thing in the world to me that people are just like going, oh, well, we have, I think the biggest killer, not only in America, but the world is apathy. People just go, what are we going to do? And people just don't have the guts to stand up to our government anymore and forget that it's we the people. It's not we the big government, but we're letting our government get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's really pathetic to me.
Yeah, and we the people are so divided now. I mean, to the point where those things
Well,
are happening.
that's the movies, that's the television, that's the press, that's our government. I mean, beating over the head over and over and over again. 30 years of, climate change, the world is going to end. No, it's not. They've been talking climate change since the 1920s. We know, when is this stuff going to end? So it's just weird to me that we're just brainwashing people, and fear is government's favorite weapon. And you saw it played out during COVID. I mean, they use fear to control everybody's life and destroy
They're still
millions
trying.
of lives.
Yeah, they're still trying. Even 3 years later, they're still trying
Yeah,
to do that.
of course they are.
So you got a lot of bad stuff to say about Hollywood, and obviously, why not? They quote unquote canceled you. What did that look like, Kevin? Like, we hear people about, like, actors like you are outspoken, you're a Christian, you're a conservative or whatever, and you get canceled. Was there just over a period of time you realized that roles weren't coming, that audition opportunities weren't coming, and you realized what's going on? Or was there a moment where you said, or where they told you, we're not hiring you anymore, you're canceled, without those words?
Well, I started feeling back in like 2007, 2008, and I'm like going, this is weird. I used to read for pilots all the time, and then finally my agent manager said, well, we can't work with you anymore because you're Christian, you're conservative. I just laugh at this stuff. I mean, I do not harbor the anger.
Your agent said those words?
I
Your
don't.
agent said,
Oh
we
yeah,
can't
no,
get you work
they were
anymore
done with.
because you're Christian
Look,
and conservative.
truth is kryptonite to the left. I mean, being a conservative Christian is like being a double leper to these guys. So to me, I laughed at him. I said, you're the industry that screams for tolerance all the time. You keep putting stuff on the screen that most people don't want to see. And you're going, oh, have tolerance for this lifestyle or that lifestyle or whatever, or the violence or whatever it may be. But they don't have tolerance. They're hypocrites, but they blatantly admit that they're hypocrites, just like our government. They blatantly admit that they do what they do now. They don't care. They lie, and they don't care what they do or say anymore. It's amazing to me. But we live in a population now that's been so brainwashed by the media, by the government over the last 40 years that they're just, if you're under 40 years of age, most of that age group is just lost. They don't get it. And education is what they've done. I mean, we keep dumbing down our population all the time. They're going to keep on doing it. They just passed, it's not even a law. They just said in the state of Oregon, the public schools, that you can graduate without being able to read or write. So after 13 years from kindergarten to 12th grade, if you still don't know how to read and write, number one, what does that say about the public school system in Oregon? But number two, what does it say when they're going, if you can't read or write, that's okay. You'll still graduate. You're going, what? I mean,
Why do you think that is? Why do you
I
think they
don't know.
want
They
a
want
dumb,
control. They want
population?
control.
That's why, right?
Why don't we get one journalist on the left coming out and saying, what are we doing, guys? I mean, we know Biden is totally into, the guy is, he's losing his mind. I mean, he's old, he's fragile and frail, and he's mumbling words and stuff. I mean, he's got full on dementia just coming on him every single day now. And I feel bad for the guy at this point. They just use him as a puppet. But we all know, we all see it, and yet we don't do anything about it. It's weird. People have just given up. Like I said earlier, apathy is ruling the world.
So you can talk about education, you can talk about government, which you have, but a few minutes ago you mentioned Disney. Now this is just family entertainment for eons. I mean, decades and decades. Certainly going back to when I was born. It's a tried and true and proven money maker. It's a multi-billion-dollar corporation selling family stuff. What happened? Why would you ruin that formula and bring in all of what you or I might call woke, or some people may not? They don't like that terminology. But why would they take something that just appeals to children, appeals to families and parents, and mess that up and put themselves in the situation they're in now? Why would? What's their reason?
I think Walt Disney himself is spinning in his grave what they've done to his name. I mean, he originally came out doing the movies we all loved, and it's just, once again, it just shows you that generation, that under 40 years of generation that have been totally brainwashed through the public school systems and our universities. Look, Bill Maher came out a month ago and said, don't send your kids to our universities. Bill Maher.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff he's been saying this last year, he's like JFK, old Democrat. He's not like these liberal crazy guys out there right now that, we want to get rid of meat. Okay, don't eat meat. Let us eat meat. I don't sit there. I love my steak, and they're going to tell me that I can't have steak anymore. It's the weirdest thing to me, because most people on the right will say, don't eat it then. But on the left, they're going, if I don't like it, nobody else can have it. I mean, this creepy control thing that they want to do all the time is unbelievable to me. So why do they do it? I think it comes down once again to education. Comes down to the emasculation of men in this country. We have so many wimps in this country now that are afraid to speak out. I get people on my set every day. I get somebody on my set for the last 6-7 years come up to me very quietly, like we're doing a drug deal, and say, hey, thanks for being a voice for us. Well, be a voice for yourself. Yeah, I don't want to get blacklisted like you did. Okay, granted, I'm not making big budget movies. I'm not getting any television roles on networks anymore, or cable, but I'm still making movies. The independent world is expanding like crazy over the last decade. So I'm still in the industry I love, but I'm doing the movies that I want to make and not the crap that Hollywood keeps forcing on our throat. So I think the biggest reason that you're seeing what Disney's doing is just the insanity of this. Well, we're afraid to make the left mad at us. They keep forgetting that half the country doesn't believe in what they're doing. I think there's quite a few people on the left that are agreeing with what I'm saying right now anyway. But a lot of them are just too afraid to open up their mouths. So to me, it's just, I'm going to keep fighting the fight, and I'm going to speak the truth, because as I said earlier, truth is kryptonite to the left and kryptonite to Hollywood and kryptonite to the press. But I'm going to keep speaking it because, they kicked me off of Facebook a long time ago, 2.5 years ago, for my conspiracy theories. Of course, everything I said came true now. As I posted on Twitter, I said, I need more conspiracy theories. All mine came true.
Which ones did you post that got you booted?
A lot of it was about COVID, questioning COVID. I put a lot of things that as many doctors on the anti side of COVID were saying that I was saying. They said, look, all these doctors are saying this about mask wearing. That's useless. Of course it's useless. I laugh at these people there. I mean, it's so easy to pick out the liberals now. They're living in fear. About 1% still wear masks when they go through the airports. About 1%. and half of them have it below their nose. And so, what is that doing? You're so afraid. Cover your whole bloody face. I mean, it's amazing to me. And it's been proven it doesn't work. Even Fauci said they don't work. But once they got behind closed doors, they said, don't say that. I got videos of him saying it. Oh, masks are useless. You know, oh, no, you can't. You need to have a vaccine tested for 8 to 10 years before you can bring it out there. They bring this thing out in less than a year. And now, how many people are having problems with the heart? And you just wait. There's going to be more and more problems with this. But this whole COVID thing, the whole shots I've been forcing on people, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of girls that took it in high school and they didn't need it. I bet you when they're 25, 30 years old, they won't be able to get pregnant. Just mark my
Yeah.
words.
I recently did an episode of this show with Dr. Peter McCullough. He was
Sure. I know Peter
outlining
well.
a lot of those. Yeah,
Yeah.
Dr. Malone as well. And as far as the girls, Naomi Wolf is somebody that I spoke with because she called this from the beginning that this is going to cause the shots are going to cause huge problems with menstrual cycles, and
Sure.
it's going to lead to women not being able to get pregnant. They're going to be infertile because of this, and so many of
Eight
these things are happening.
800% jump of deaths in under 21-year-olds in the country. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And we're not going to question that. We're going to look at that or talk about that. It's pretty
So,
crazy.
so do you ever have any regrets about opening your mouth the way that you have? And obviously, you found success in the independent film industry through Sorbo Studios and everything else. But if you had just kind of kept a little bit of your views and beliefs to yourself, keep it on the down low, like so many in Hollywood probably are doing right
Yeah.
now, what would your career look like?
I don't know. I have no idea. But you're right. I've thought about it. It hits me every once in a while. I mean, if I just kept my mouth shut, I bet you that this would happen or that would have happened. But my wife warned me. But I got to a point by 2010, 2011. I said, I'm so sick of this. Why can't I speak up? Why have we have brainwashed? Why have we made it so bad to have another point of view? I did a documentary called Climate Hustle 2, and shows just as many doctors, if not more, or global climate guys say it's weather, guys. There's climate change is seasons changing. It's kind of the way it is. We've always had colder years and colder centuries and hotter centuries. I mean, it varies all the time. And they wouldn't. Amazon took it off. They wouldn't let us put it on Amazon. We didn't even let us get in the theaters. I'm going. Wait a minute. When did we stop having both sides of a debate? Why can't we show my documentary and then show that insane one that Gore put out that made him a billionaire with all his fear? Why can't kids look at both of them and let kids decide? But no, we it's all just one view now. We can't have your view, and that's why I got banned from LinkedIn and Facebook for telling the truth. So follow me on Twitter, KSorbs, KSORBS. Sorbs is my nickname with my buddies.
It's on the screen right now. Yep.
There you go. Perfect. Follow me right there, and you'll have a blast because I'm very sarcastic with my truth. As one of my said, one of my said, you want to get rid of COVID? Tell the Clintons that COVID's got something on them.
Perfectly
They'll
stated.
seriously commit suicide.
We've got Sorbo Studios on the screen too. Is that where I would have to go to see Climate Hustle 2 to find that?
Yeah, we can get a copy.
I've not heard of that. I didn't know that was a thing. And it's probably because what you said, they wouldn't allow it on Amazon or any of the
Wouldn't allow it. Wouldn't allow it. It's awesome.
Awesome. Okay. Oh, there you go. That's the website right there. There's Sorbo Studios right there. It's got Miracle in East Texas. That's your most recent release, right?
That's the most recent one. Yep. Just came out. Just came out. And by the way, my latest book just came out too with Brave Books, A Test of Linehood. And this is a really good movie. It's about letting kids be kids and grow up to be strong male role models for their families.
Well, I want to go back a little to our conversation about Stallone and Schwarzenegger and Sorbo and the big buff guys and the heroes and stuff, and why I said they're not there anymore. I feel like, even though you're right, I think when you say that the action heroes today, they're trying to make them more relatable and so on and so forth. But I also think it's part of that toxic masculinity type of message that they're sending. They don't want the big, heavily muscled guys out there saving the day. They advance the patriarchy. They advance too much masculinity. Guys can't get in touch with their feelings and so on and so forth. So I think there's a problem with that. So I don't know. I haven't seen your book yet, but is that kind of the messaging too about letting young boys become masculine men?
Yeah. It's a wonderful little Brave Books. Go to bravebooks.com. A lot of great information there. Every month they put out a book from somebody you're going to know, somebody that's a celebrity or famous, whatever they may be. And I've got another one coming out soon. I just did a bunch of commercials for them. They'll be airing quite a bit. And it's just it really, they started doing it back in sitcoms more in the 70s, and it's accelerated through the years. If you look at most sitcoms, the dad is kind of like out of shape. He's kind of he's kind of nothing. Mom's a babe, right? And the teenage kids just use dad as a pincushion to make fun of him. So we are constantly telling kids that father isn't important, that the father in the family is not necessary, and they've been doing this on purpose. I mean, they wanted to destroy the nuclear family. They wanted to destroy, I think the last sitcom that really had a strong male and female was probably the Cosby Show. They were both funny and stuff, but they had a more sort of equal relationship. Now they just want to make the dads look like idiots. They do it in movies all the time. You look at movies with anybody who's religious, anybody who's a pastor or a priest, or anybody who's conservative. They're the evil ones. They're the idiots. They're the morons. They're the bad guys, and they just
Oh,
do
yeah.
that.
Homer Simpson, Peter Griffin, Al Bundy. I mean, if you just look at the TV side of things,
Yeah,
not to mention the movies that you're talking about right now, you're exactly right, because fathers don't matter. That's been the message. We talked to Larry Elder. I don't mean to keep name dropping, but other episodes on the
Larry's a
show,
very
Larry
good
Elder.
friend. I know Larry for
Yeah,
years.
I mean, he has made this his mission for the last 40 years. He's been
Sure.
talking about fatherlessness and what it does, not just to the black community, but to all communities.
Yeah, Jack Brewer.
I know of Jack Brewer.
Jack does the same thing. He played for my Minnesota Vikings. I'm a
Yep,
Minnesota guy, but he goes to these prisons, and all these guys in prisons, and most of them are black. No father. They grew up with no father. And they knew maybe of a father, but that father was in prison too.
yep.
80% of blacks are raised without a father. It's either the mother or grandmother that raises them. Every time you see like some stud athlete in football or basketball from college or the pros, it's the mother in the audience, right? There's no
That's right.
father around.
You're
There's
exactly
nobody
right.
there.
In far too
And
many cases.
so they grow up with a lot of anger, a lot of hate, and and it was LBJ that really started that when he put the Welfare Reform Act back in 1964, where he said, we'll take care of all the black community mothers out there. If there's not a man in the house, we'll take care of you. Every kid you have, we'll give you X amount of dollars. So they went from a community, the African American community, that had the lowest divorce rate, the lowest single rate, and we made it the highest and the worst. This is what happened. And I don't know, did they do it on purpose, or they just didn't see the repercussions of that? Because now you've got 3 generations of African American women that have 5 kids from 5 different guys by the time they're 30 years old, just so they can collect that paycheck for each kid. And that's become a way of making a living. And it's unbelievable. And Larry, as you said, Larry Elder's fighting that big time. He's well aware of it. Me as a white guy shouldn't say the truth. So I'll let Larry and Jack bring up the statistics.
It
That's
matters. Yeah, it
they
does.
the left hates facts. They hate statistics. They hate truth. So what are you going to do? Everything's just made up right now, and it doesn't matter what people say or do, and everything's okay.
Is there any way to turn back from that? Because I don't see any changes being made. You mentioned LBJ, you mentioned, the welfare state being pushed and so forth, and you're exactly right. We've seen the results,
Yeah,
whether they were intentional or accidental, which you just asked. We
sure.
we know what the results are. So, is there any turning back? Is there any way to eliminate the welfare state and bring working and being married and bringing the nuclear family back to being a position of pride and not something to be ashamed of?
Well, I think more and more people standing up in the black community talk about it. Whether it's Denzel Washington, who's just a brilliant guy and a brilliant speaker on top of a brilliant actor, um, whether it's Shaq, whether it's even Magic. I mean, there's much bigger voice out there, and they're opening up and talking about Charles Barkley, another one, just gets out there and just speaks the truth. And when Trump came along, I mean, look at the number of African Americans now voting on the Republican side, waking up. They're waking up, and it's happening more and more and more. I look at people that said, "Oh, I hated Trump," and why? I go, "Well, what policies of his did you hate?" "Well, he's an asshole." I go, "Okay, being an asshole is not a policy. What policies did you hate? Did you hate it that he made black communities the lowest unemployment they've ever had? Hispanic communities the lowest ever had? That we had secure borders? 1.4 million in 4 years came across the border in Trump. 7 million and counting under Biden. He's not even barely in his 4th year. Are you
I think
kidding
we're
me?
up. I think we're up over 9 actually.
It's unbelievable. And you know that there are a lot of evil people coming. We're going to have one of the big, you worried about 9/11? We're going to have 50 9/11s on the same day somewhere down the road, because they're here. They've already caught a number. They caught like 27 Syrians that are all on the watch list trying to sneak across the borders. How many got across that they didn't catch? You know,
I,
there's
I heard over 150 that are on the terrorist watch list. Not all Syrians, 150 people on the terrorist watch list have been caught coming across, and that, of course, doesn't. Those are the ones that were caught. They
those
were
ones that
identified because their name was on it. But how many of
I
them
think there's
were
hundreds of
among the
thousands
terrorists?
in there, you know? And
Yeah,
then people go, well, all non Muslims are bad. They go, well, no kidding. But they estimate that about 500 million of them are more than this country can handle. There's
yeah.
what is it, 2 billion Muslims in the world? They estimate 500 million are um, want to destroy America, want to destroy Israel.
The fundamentalists are the ones who want to establish,
Yeah,
a global caliphate. They essentially want, you know, a global theocracy of
yeah.
Islam essentially dominating the world. That, of course, doesn't reflect
Yes.
all of them. It does, since we're
Oh,
on
wait,
this.
just go back for a second. Why? Why is this government letting 9 million people across the border? Why? Other than they're doing it on purpose and want to destroy America. It's weird to me, in that it's even more weird that we have 300 million plus Americans in this country that aren't asking the same question. It's
I
just
just I just did an interview with an expert on globalism, and we were talking about that very, very question. Why
right.
would the leadership of the most powerful country on earth, which is what we are, cede any of their power to share it with other nations and other global leaders? We really don't really have the answer. I mean, we talked about it for half an hour. Um,
Yeah,
Other than the old axiom of absolute power corrupts absolutely. If you have power, the one thing you desire is more power,
sure.
more people to put under heel. I don't know what you get out of that, but what else can you say other than just a desire for evil power?
Well, it's that there's that old Bruce Springsteen song that says, "Rich poor man wants to be rich, rich man wants to be king. King's not satisfied till he rules everything." And that's
There
just
you
what you
go.
just said. It's just I want more, 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 and people just But once again, I think that's through television and movies. I think people have we get taught that more is better, more is not enough. You got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. It's one thing to have the American dream, but it's another thing to not be satisfied with what you have, and that comes from a lot from a moralist country. It comes more from a people that don't like themselves. We have so many people that look in the mirror and hate what they see. If you don't love your neighbor as yourself because you don't love yourself, you're going to hate everything. And the people that attack me on the internet doesn't affect my lifestyle at all. I barely look at that crap. I post stuff and I move on. But I hear from other people, man, they're going, "What's guy said that?" I said, I don't care. These are people that hate who they are. And all they do is spread more of their anger and hate towards you and towards me, thinking that makes them feel better. It doesn't. You know what? That just digs them down further and further in the ugly black hole that they live in. It doesn't affect my lifestyle at all. I still got my friends. I still laugh. I still love my family. I feel sad for these people. These are the people that go in and shoot up people in the mall. These are people that you know want to attack other people they want to burn down police stations. I mean, it's the weirdest thing in the world. When they said let's defund the police, now they're all screaming, "We need more police." Because they're
So
idiots. They're complete
you
idiots.
mentioned the internet.
Yeah,
I've got a list of, the media kit for Kevin Sorbo. I got your Instagram and your Twitter and all of your different social media accounts. And you got Sorbo Studios on the screen there, K Sorbs on Twitter and everything else.
sure.
It is a toxic, toxic place. The
Yeah,
internet is a very, very dangerous place. It is influencing kids in ways that you can't even imagine, that parents have no earthly idea, the
no.
social media influencers. So it's so negative, but yet you're using it. I'm using it. I've got an iPad with the internet in front of me. I've got an iPhone in front of me. We're all guilty of it. We're all using it. So, my question to you is, on balance, is the internet good or bad for humankind?
Well, technology is always going to keep on growing, right? I mean, I look at this stuff now with these
Maybe
AI.
to our detriment.
I mean, there's stuff happening now this is like we're looking at Terminator right now. Some of these things that are happening with these robots and taking over lives, but I still think there's good in it. I just think that unfortunately, the bad is just exploded, and people are making a lot of money off of it. And unfortunately, it's in a negative way, in a hateful way. TikTok's the same way. The message they spread. You got kids committing suicide because they do a video and then they get 10,000 people around the world and say, "You're ugly, you should die." And then these are 13-year-old girls. Like, oh my God. So it's gotten people are using it as a place to find comfort. Oh, I got a lot of friends. They're not your friends. I get people following me. I'll probably never meet 99.9% of them, and I'm grateful that they follow me. But they, I get 5% of them that just want to. They wait for me to post something so they can attack me, and it's just so funny to me. I would never spend my time doing that. I have so much more going on in my life than waiting for somebody to post, "Oh, you're a dick." It cracks me up that people actually spend the time to do that. And these are people probably working for George Soros, probably working for a Facebook guy, whatever the hell his name is, Zuckerberg, and probably collecting unemployment. And they're probably 35 years old, living in their mom's basement. So there you go.
All right. You're a big guy, you're a tough guy, but I'm going to say this to you anyway. That was a pussy answer. I asked you on balance, is it good or bad for humanity? You wrote a fence there. You got splinters in your ass right now. Come on. Tell,
Well,
tell me right now,
for
would
me,
this
it's
would
not going
this
to go
this
away.
country and this
I
world be
use it for
better if the
good, so
internet
I
didn't
got I
exist?
got to say it's for good because I use it for good.
I know, and I try to use it for good too, but
Yeah,
but you can't use it for your good without giving access to all of those people you just named who are using it for bad. So would
sure,
our world and our country be a better place right now if the internet did not exist?
sure,
I kind of feel
no
the same
question,
way. Even
no
though we
question.
have access to so much
Yeah,
information, people
yeah,
solve medical problems by looking things up online. We get to go and find things at a moment's notice instead of having to go to the library and look at Encyclopedia Britannica about
yeah,
something. I mean, it is great in so many ways, but I feel the same way. I feel like we have entered a very dark period of human, in our human experience
yeah.
because of this machine right
You,
here.
it's interesting. The majority of the people that want to attack you and they use the internet for evil and evil, these are the same people that, quite a few of these people, they want to believe, oh, we got to get rid of oil, we got to get rid of coal and all that stuff. And I always look at those people, okay, do you have a cell phone? Yeah, well, you better get rid of it. There's oil in that. You got your computer? Oh, you better get rid of it. Oh, do you use a brush or a comb or hair dryer? Oh, do you use a car, the tires and everything like that? More oil. They have no idea. These
No.
people that go when they throw paint on these very old paintings, they chain themselves to
I like the
highways.
ones who glue themselves to the painting or
Oh,
to the pavement. What do you think that glue is made out of? It's made out of
yeah,
petrochemical.
they have. To me, it's the ignorance and the idiocy of their uneducation of knowing the oil products. It's hundreds of things. It's in your clothes for crying out loud. But these people want to get rid of it and get back with coal, and they want to go back to the Stone Ages. Is that really what they want to do? Their oil is here for a reason. There's a reason why all this stuff fits and why these things are working because of it. And you got Biden saying the other day that by 2050 he wants the vast majority of people in electric cars. But in the meantime, him and John Kerry want to get rid of coal. I'm like going, everything you guys say is illogical. It makes zero sense what they're saying. But people need to wake up and I get rid of your phones then. I mean, do you remember that thing they had for a while? When was that? 10, 12 years ago? They had those sit-ins, Wall Street and stuff. They were doing these
Occupy Wall Street.
Occupy Wall Street. Okay,
Yeah.
I was doing an autograph show, a Comic-Con show in New York City. I had a big group come up to me. Oh my God, I'm a big fan, this and that. I go, they're all just stinky. Hey, we've been Occupy Wall Street. We got to get rid of all this stuff. I looked at them and I said, well, you got a Starbucks coffee. You got your cell phones. I said, you guys should get rid of this stuff. If you want to, and Steve Jobs had just passed away. They go, yeah, but he was a good billionaire. Oh, okay. So we're going to sit there quantify who was the bad billionaire and the good billionaires. And I just, once again, it's this hippie thing that still kind of goes on. There's a great quote from Winston Churchill. I know I'm going to botch it, but he basically said, if you're, under 30 years old and you're not a liberal, you're whatever. But if you're 40 years old and above and you haven't become a conservative, then you're an idiot or something like
Yeah.
that.
I think it's if you're under 30 and you're not a liberal, you have no heart. If you're
I have
over
no heart.
30
That's
and,
it.
and you're not a conservative, you have no brain. That's I think that's what the one you're
No,
referring to.
no, I knew I wasn't going to say it correct, but you knew what I was
No.
talking
Hey, I'm having such a good time with this conversation. I'm kind of fanboying you. You're a movie star, and I'm a huge fan of yours. I thought it was so cool when you said when you met Denzel, you became the fanboy. So, oh my
about.
God, I'm such a fan of yours. There's probably not a lot of people like that, but what other entertainment figures would you say that if you went up to, you'd be a little bit kind of sheepish and like, oh my God, I'm such a huge fan of that guy.
Well, Paul Newman, he's passed away now, but I got a beautiful letter that he wrote me that I got on my wall and stuff. And there's a reason I want to be an actor was him. And it was just amazing. Look, my first year in Hercules, I got a whole year with Anthony Quinn. I mean, to work with Anthony Quinn,
Legend.
Oh my gosh! I mean, 6 times nominated for Academy Awards, two-time winner. Every Saturday for a year, he and I went out for dinner, and I never could call him Tony. We were very good friends the last 9 years of his life until he passed away. Went to his funeral, and I never called him Tony. He got very mad at me. I always call him Mr. Quinn. I just couldn't call him Tony. And the stories I would get from Lawrence of Arabia, Guns of Navarone, Zorba the Greek, all these great movies he did, and it was just amazing. And I asked him, he was 78 years old that year. We shot Hercules together. I said, "Why do you want to do these 5 2-hour movies?" Because we shot like 10 weeks in each movie, so it was 50 weeks. It was an entire year. And he said, "Kevin, I've always wanted to play Zeus, and I'm 78. When will I get the chance again?"
That's awesome. Now you're talking Newman and Anthony Quinn. You're talking about older guys, older generation. What about your contemporaries? Are there superstars who are, your age or about your age, a little older, a little younger, that you look at with reverence like that?
I got some. I would love to work one day like with Sandra Bullock. I think she's a fantastic actress. I
I
like
love
Sandra
her.
a lot.
Yeah, I
I
love
don't know what
Sandra.
she stands. I'm sure we're quite different, polar opposites, and that stuff. Um, uh, I'll tell you, a young actor. We had 2 spinoffs on Hercules. In season 3, we spun up Xena. In season 5, we spun up Young Hercules. A lot of people forget about that show. Only lasted 2 seasons. Was canceled. Well, the actor playing me as a teenager was devastated. And he calls me up. We were in New Zealand. That's where we shot it. Took him out to lunch, and I said, "Dude, you're a really good actor." And I wasn't just saying that because I remember he worked on my show before he got the part on Young Hercules. And I remember going home to my wife and I said, "I just worked with this 19-year-old kid. That there's some real. It's interesting. You can see that they got it, whatever it is. Even at 19, I said his confidence was amazing. Well, that was a 20 when the show finished. He was 21 years old. That was a 21-year-old Ryan Gosling. That guy,
Ryan Gosling?
yeah, that
Really?
played me as young Hercules. Oh, you can look it up on the internet. You can see the skinny,
Wow.
and now he's just
How does that feel to know that you kind of like had a, I don't know, a small
it's
role in launching that career?
it's amazing. But I'm Ryan, if you're listening, I think you owe me a role in one of your movies. So but I'm sure he's far left too. I don't know. He's a Canadian guy.
Can
But
you be friends? I mean, I talk to a lot of conservative minded people. You're as outspoken as any of them when you're talking about these things. Are you friends with any people who are far left?
oh, I got I got
Can
friends
you
of
have
mine.
relationships with them?
There he is. There he is. That's too
There,
funny.
wow. I had no idea who that was.
Yeah. So I got friends of mine from high school that are liberals, that are atheists. But then I've had other ones that I've known for years that said they won't talk to me anymore, and I just laugh at them. I go, "That
Would
is so
you talk to them if they did? I mean,
cool." Of
you know what
course,
I mean? Because
I have a
there are a
heart
lot of people who are
for it.
far right who are calling for the national divorce. We can't live with these people. We can't, if they say, I'm a guy and I know what biology is, and if they want me to say that men can get pregnant, I can't be friends with you. Do you know what I mean? Like when we're in that type of divided country right now, where
But,
people are saying
but
we should all split.
but
Can
I'm
you
gonna,
be
I'm
friends with?
sorry to say it, but men cannot get pregnant. I'm sorry. It's just
Well,
this
you
is
just chased away a few other friends.
they've got to have, come on, in the back of their minds they know that's an insane thing to think that men can get pregnant. I mean,
They don't.
seriously.
They don't. They're
Oh,
in front of Congress testifying, many of them saying, "No, there will be a uterine implant within the next 5 years, and if a uterus can be
well,
implanted,
okay,
baby will
okay,
be
that's
born
okay through
without."
surgery. Through
Well,
surgery.
but then the other part of that is just the trans males, females who actually have biological ability to have babies, but then they take their testosterone and they grow their mustaches and they say, "Look at me, I'm a man and I'm pregnant." And so men can get pregnant. Real men, or excuse me, trans women are
Well,
real women, and so forth. That ideology is just so, like I said, it's just incompatible with one another. I can't really see myself hanging around people who want me to say that.
yeah, no. To me, that's just. I laugh at that stuff. I mean, I find it absolutely ridiculous. Look, I identify as an actor that should get paid $20 million a movie. I'm not, so maybe I should sue Hollywood for not paying me $20 million in a movie, since people are suing and canceling people left and right for the most stupid reasons. But once again, this comes from our government, movies, television, education. We're just brainwashing these people left and right. So, um, I
Why,
it's
why do you why do you think that particular movement started in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it is, the way that they're talking about the transing of America? I mean, transgender people used to be called transsexuals, used to be called cross dressers. This is not a new thing, but it
No.
is new in the scores of young kids that are being swept up in it by the social media influencers. It's one of the reasons I asked you if the internet was on balance, good or bad, because so many kids are being influenced online
Yeah.
to change their gender or
Yeah.
try to change their gender. What do
Yeah.
you think the driver is
You
behind
just
that?
said it. It's the internet. It's the internet. People
No, they
all
drive, but I mean but who decided this is what we're going to push on the internet? This is the new thing we're going to do. We're going to tell young pre-adolescent kids you're not really a boy or a girl, and if you want some clout and some friends and some followers, tell everybody you're trans and start the process. Somebody had to say that's the new
I,
thing.
I don't know who started. It doesn't make any sense to me, but that's what we're doing. Look, I got a buddy of mine who's a doctor. I'm not going to name. It's at a big hospital, and he said, we used to get one every 3 or 4 months. We're getting 10 a week now. Kids coming in and want to get going hormones and all this kind of stuff, and that's driven from the schools, driven from the universities, driven from the internet, driven from the government, and all. We're confusing 5 and 6 year old kids. There was a great video out there a couple months ago where this guy sat down with 8-year-old kids. One at a time came in the room. No, there'd be nobody else in the room for influencing. $5,000 here, Oreo cookies over here. You can only have one. They all took the Oreo cookies. They all took it.
Yeah.
That just shows you the brain of a 7-year-old kid doesn't look at 5,000 and go, I could buy a hell of a lot of cookies with $5,000. They just, I mean, you're going and you're telling these kids can make up their mind to change their sex. It's just sad. It's
Well,
sad what
they're
we're
they're
doing.
they're arguing they're arguing that children know from birth if they are quote unquote trans. That if they're male, they're actually female. I mean,
Well,
I know
Bruce,
it's crazy, but this is the argument they're making now, and they have advocates and they have defenders on TV and on the internet saying this is so, and they have people in what I call the medical industrial complex who know that every one of those individuals that they start on these blockers or on hormones or whatnot, much less actually go through with the surgeries, they're lifelong patients now. They are just constant repeat customers because there's always something going wrong with the
yeah.
mutilation that they've suffered.
Well, look at all the late teens and all 20 somethings now coming out of that closet saying, "Mom, I was 6. What were you thinking?" And they hate what happened to them.
Yeah.
And that's what my line, Test of Linehood, check it out. It's letting boys be boys. I'm pro-child. Let them be old enough to make that decision. Not at 6 years old. Let them get to 18 to 20 years old. Let get old. Bruce Jenner waited till he was 60. Okay, so it's like let kids have a chance to be children and be kids, and if they feel that way when they're old enough to really make that decision, old enough to be drafted into the army, then fine, go for it. It doesn't affect my lifestyle if people want to do this. I don't argue against it. I find it weird that parents would do it to their children when they're 5 and 6 years old. That's weird to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what's really frustrating to me about it is the fact that the children, or excuse me, the role models and influencers in the kids' lives are supposed to be those parents, their doctors,
Yeah.
their guidance counselors, their preschool teachers. And if you look at TikTok, because you brought up TikTok, are you on TikTok? Do you have the
I
app?
you know I never went that road, and it wasn't because of any other reason. I just figure I'm on enough other stuff. I probably should have and use it in a positive way. My
Yeah.
son, my son's got over 2 million followers. He does a joke. He does 3 or 4 jokes a week on it. He's got over 2 million followers, and he's making money on it. I mean,
But
people
those
say, "Hey,
those those people I just listed who are supposed to be the positive influencers in these kids' lives are on TikTok and they're on Instagram and they're shooting videos about the exact opposite, telling the kids to
well,
do these things. And I'm just wondering again. I've said this to a number of groups that I've spoken to, to parents. If you don't know who your children's influencers are, you're not one of them
no."
because they are online. And if you saw what they were exposed to, you would shut that down in 2 seconds flat. You better, wake yourself up. What are we looking at?
You're
True.
looking at True Play Games. Go to True Play. So TruePlay.games/Sorbo. TruePlay.games/Sorbo. These are video games that are positive for your kids. These are positive messages for you. These are wonderful, wonderful teaching games, learning games, and it's a fantastic place to go. And so if you
Look at
go
my
to
man Ryan. My man Ryan had never heard of that before. Neither had I, but it's up
yeah,
on the screen right now next to you. Look at that. That's beautiful.
TruePlay.games/Sorbo, and you'll get a big percentage off, and you'll get all kinds of stuff that is going to give you a lot of information. I don't know if anybody could possibly do that off take that.
I think you could, yeah. You're just putting that QR code up there. Anybody wants to hold up their phone to their screen right now should be able to grab that
They can
and
be
go
able to
right to
grab
the
that,
truth.
and you get all kinds of information on it. It's wonderful. So
Perfect.
check it out.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you're not going to have games on there where people are shooting each other and stealing each other's cars and,
No, we
grabbing.
play Christmas time. We play a lot of great card games that I've been playing since I was a kid myself. We have a lot of fun. My kids love it. Pass it on. We'll play a lot of cribbage. We'll watch a lot of movies, and we'll just have a good old time. We're looking forward to it. I love Christmas time. My lights have been up for over 2 months.
So you're one of these guys who puts them up at Halloween, right?
Before Halloween, and take it down at the beginning of February.
See, now you can do that because you live in Florida, but up here in the north or in the Midwest is where we are in Ohio. People put up their Christmas lights before Halloween. It's a sure sign that they're bringing snow in November. It's your fault, and you're down there. You don't have to worry about
Where do you live in Ohio?
Cleveland area.
All right,
We're live in Cleveland,
I
Ohio.
got a good buddy from high school in Shaker Heights there.
Okay, yeah, very close
I've
by.
been there. I've been there a couple times. I go to Columbus every year playing Jason Day's golf tournament. Jason Day's an Australian professional golfer.
Oh yeah, I know Jason Day. Yeah.
Anyway, I hate to do this, but we got to wrap up. I got another interview coming up in about 4 minutes.
Well, you know what, Kevin? I really appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate you sharing all of your great views on so many of these things. Keep up the great work with Sorbo Studios. We will visit sorbostudios.com to watch some of those documentaries and other things.
Awesome.
Kevin, thanks very much. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Take care.
Like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be notified for all our new videos. New episodes dropping every Tuesday morning, and we'll have some of our favorite interviews from the vault dropping on Fridays as well.